Americans, so we became their most loyal executioners.
The ones that do this,
unfortunately, we were a bit too good at doing the US.
like Joe, I think all the ones what were army guys, yes, bro.
Establishment was freaking out.
They did know about Robertsman. The complaints finally got through, and they said, "Fuck, this is an issue. We can't have our fucking star player go down." Not only they cared so much about him, but all the people that have been shaking his hand and the Governor General pinning medals on him, and it's going to be huge.
Suddenly, the government
It's gonna be
needed to reverse
huge.
course and start covering their tracks.
A kind of warning was put out to all the troops saying, basically, don't murder people. And when I said, what's that about?
So the government was suddenly like really serious about war crimes, but obviously they're not going to go after the decorated war criminals whose crimes they spent a decade covering up. No, what they needed was a sacrificial lamb, a fresh, brand new soldier that could be made an example of to show that the Australian leadership cares about war crimes. And it was David's job to prosecute him.
What they tried to do is get scapegoats in order to make sure that no one looked too closely at him. I wasn't prepared to let a soldier get sacrificed, thrown under a bus, just because what the minister needed was a bad guy. They've got drone footage of all this. Yeah, and if they wanted to actually put people on trial, they'd use the drone footage. And they don't want to use the drone footage because the drone footage, A, the Americans don't want them to, but secondly, that shows that they must have known at the time.
Yeah.
After all this time chasing up war crimes reports only to get constantly pushed back by his superiors, now they suddenly wanted him to punish a man he thought was innocent. And this was the final straw. David decided to start photocopying all the dodgy reports, all the proof of war crimes he could get a hold of, and all the evidence of this big cover-up, and leak it to a journalist at the prestigious state broadcaster, a guy called Dan Oakes from the ABC. Now, David was risking his life leaking this, and what the ABC ended up doing with it was unfortunate, right? Like, instead of a story of like corruption at the highest levels of government, they turned it into like a cultural issue. A story about how a group of bad boy soldiers had become desensitized and hyped each other up to murder innocent people.
They basically painted it as bad soldiers, but they don't really ever point the finger at the leadership to say he didn't really do this on his own, in the sense that they promoted him, they never really looked into it, there were complaints. If a general either knew or should have known, they're liable too, but they've managed to forget all about that.
Now, the soldiers committing these crimes were psychopaths, right? The ABC's not wrong, but they completely ignored David's documents about all the powerful people who enabled it and covered it up. It's letting the leadership off the hook, right? And either way, there's no like legal or ethical way to invade and terrorize an innocent country. Like what we did to the people of Afghanistan is a senseless crime in itself, and no one was prosecuted for it.
There's far too much emphasis on war crime, you know. It's 200,000 Afghan dead, and then giving the place back to Taliban. I mean, no one's lost their job over that. Why
that's not
isn't that
considered a war crime.
the biggest crimes were committed by the leaders?
But unfortunately, the ABC went for the path of least resistance, right? They published a war crime story, which felt like a victory for the anti-war left, but they also exonerated all the leaders, which, you know, should have been a victory for the government. But the government didn't care how lightly the ABC tread, right? They collaborated with a whistleblower and they needed to be punished. So the government did what any democracy does in this situation.
And there's a raid happening right here at the ABC right now, just 100 metres or so that way.
They sent in the federal police to raid the national broadcaster and all these journalists' homes. And
Oh my
everyone's
God, dude.
Once the federal agents
This
walked out
gets
of the building,
worse
even
and
the news
worse.
reporter who was meant to be covering it sounded like a 12-year-old trying to make small talk with his girlfriend's dad.
Was there anything wrong there?
Now, David was hiding in Spain long before the ABC published their story. He's on the run from the most powerful people in the world, and he's obviously scared. But David told us that the most painful part about being a whistleblower is knowing you have to leave your loved ones behind. He had to watch his daughters grow up from the other side of the world. Eventually, he gave up on hiding, and he did something I've only ever seen someone do in an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. He flew back to Australia, risked life imprisonment by a corrupt government just so he could spend one night at a daddy-daughter dance.
She kept saying, there's a father-daughter dance later in the year, and I'll be like, if I come home, I'll get arrested, and if I get arrested, I'll probably be in jail a long time. She just said, I want you to come back for the dance. And I could tell when I spoke to her, I could tell it was just silence. And I could just tell she was silently crying on the end of the phone, and I was like, oh, no father can handle it.
So, David came back to Australia.
That's beautiful, dude. This guy is like the... Oh my God.
Just how terribly he needed you.
Man, this guy's a
Now,
beautiful
this
soul,
moment
bro.
didn't last very long. David was arrested and put on trial for leaking classified information. But it wasn't a normal trial where, you can defend yourself, right? It was the other kind of trial where the judge turns to you and says, sorry, mate, the Americans said the evidence you're using for your defense isn't actually allowed for national security reasons. So we've decided you have to defend yourself with zero evidence.
The government was given authority to bundle up evidence and run out the back door with it. Makes it impossible for us realistically to go to trial.
I'm not giving up hope. He's done the right thing. I've said that from the beginning. Truth and justice will prevail, and I'm incredibly proud of him, as are his two girls.
So yeah, obviously since he can't defend himself, he's going to jail, which sets an insane precedent here in Australia. Like it's the death of whistleblower laws, right? This ruling means that if you have information that your boss is committing a crime and you leak that information, then you're the criminal.
The judge ruled to say there are no exceptions. If you're in the military and the orders are don't release information, it doesn't matter whether the chief of the defence force is selling secrets to our enemies or a pedophile ring or war crimes. We didn't even get to the facts. He just said there are no exceptions.
Now, all this time, the ABC was scared silent. They never once mentioned David McBride since they got raided back in 2019, and David's legal team started to get a bit suspicious. When they asked the ABC for evidence to help his case, they refused to cooperate, which was confusing. But suddenly, it all made sense, right? A few weeks before he's sentenced to, prison, the ABC finally pipes up to release a hit piece on him. Australia's premier journalism program, Four Corners, was faced with this bombshell story of government cover-ups, war crimes, and the brutal erosion of our democratic freedoms. But instead, they decided to run this documentary suggesting that David McBride isn't a real whistleblower and he doesn't deserve your attention. They made absurd claims that he actually wanted to cover up war crimes himself, and he somehow leaked all these incriminating documents by accident.
Wild. It's so
Point out
fucked,
the fact
man.
that,
We live in
among
such
all
a
the evidence of
fucked
war
up
crimes that he
world,
gave
dude.
them, there was that one soldier that he thought was improperly prosecuted and used as a smokescreen. And David wanted to protect this guy. And this was enough for ABC to smear him and turn his whole story into like the only whistleblower in the world who leaked war crimes because he really wanted to cover up war crimes.
David McBride wanted to expose that our soldiers were being unfairly targeted, they were being unfairly investigated. It's a much greyer and murkier and messier story than people appreciate.
It's honestly a mind-melting thing to watch. Like the crazy part is they spent 6 months filming this with him. They met his family. He opened up about wanting to commit suicide, for God's sake.
There are times when I am really close.
Fucking evil, dude. These people are fucking evil. The people who made this fake document, fuck these people, dude. I hope they all fucking die. I hope they stub their toe every single day of their life. Like, holy shit. Monsters.
Now, I can't stress how cruel this was. Dan Oakes received a prestigious medal for journalism for publishing a handful of David's leaks. And now, just as the government is deciding, how long David should go to prison for leaking it to him, he decides to try his best to make sure that David goes to prison for as long as possible. They literally sacrifice David to prove to the government that they can be trusted. They'll never publish leaks again. They made sure the big guys got the message that journalism is dead in Australia. And our democratic institutions that are meant to keep the government in check are completely at their disposal. So yeah, David got fucked. But what happened to all the war criminals that we now know about thanks to David? Well, let's go back to the start of the video, to our first war criminal, Ben Robert Smith. Following McBride's leaks, a couple of journalists published some more detailed allegations about Ben Robert Smith. Ben was pissed. He's a war hero, after all. These allegations are grossly offensive, and look, he's got some pretty powerful friends, so these journalists decided, they'd give up and just settle and pay him. And he said, no, you're going to pay more. I'm suing you for defamation. So he essentially forced these journalists to prove these allegations in court. So they found all these witnesses and evidence, and what they ended up proving in the defamation case was so much worse than the initial allegations. It's the most insane stuff you've ever heard. Like stories about him grabbing a little Afghani kid and blowing his brains out and then telling his fellow soldiers, this is the most beautiful thing I ever saw. Or the time he executed a disabled man and then took his prosthetic leg and kept it as a trophy, and now he just takes it around to parties so him and his soldier buddies can drink beer out of it. So this isn't just a war crime. This is the kind of demonic shit you'd only see in like a fantasy novel. This is orc behavior.
What about their legs? They don't need those.
He's shown us exactly the kind of demons we create when we invade and brutalize a third world country for 20 years without any accountability. Now, the funny part is, no one had to know about Penn's crimes. Like, all the big guys had his back. All the politicians and the oligarchs and the generals, they were all there vouching for him. He just had to shut the fuck up and live his life. But he decided to spend $40 million trying to force a court to prove that he's the vilest piece of shit in Australia. Like, this astronomical cell phone would be hilarious if it wasn't for the fact that after that, nothing happened. There were no consequences. He wasn't punished. He gets to live a normal life. Like, whoopsie, everyone makes mistakes. Run along now, Ben. This psychopathic orc is free to just roam around my city, and then every time I leave my house, I risk bumping into him in his freaky little pants. No one's threatening to put him in jail for what he did. You know, the only person who's going to jail is the one who told us about all this. Our mate, David. This is David's last week of freedom. Our last chance to hang out. After that, the next few decades of his life are meant to set an example to anyone in the future who dares to defy our government and our role in America's wars.
It's not so much about the last war. It's about the next war. And this is why I think the Americans are so worried about it. They need to know people in Australia are not going to blurt out our secrets. And like another sort of Gulf of Tonkin incident around Taiwan, where they say, oh, the Chinese have fucking shelled us. We need to all go to war over something which never really happened. That's what I worry about. Unless we break that cycle where we don't just say, yes, Minister, all the time. If nothing else, you've got your soldiers' welfare to think about. And you can't just fucking send them to their deaths or just fuck them over. You don't do it just because for some political dickhead wants to boost their popularity.
So if you care about any of this, right, go to David's GoFundMe and chip in to his legal fund. With your help, he'll have the money to keep appealing his sentence, and maybe we can make his life a little less brutal. Also, we can show the government that people care about this, right? Maybe we could show a future whistleblower that people are going to have their back if they decide to do the right thing and tell us when the government's breaking the law. Also, if you want to keep supporting videos like this, please go to our Patreon. The link's in the description. It's just $5 a month and you get a full-length exclusive video every month.
How much money did they raise?
Thanks so much, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Do it.
Unauthorized. Oh, damn. Okay. Sorry, I'm just reading the comments, man. It's just interesting to see what people are saying.
How you going? Now, usually when I make a video, I start by trying to justify the absurd thing I'm doing. Mostly so it drags out and I get more money, but also so I feel a little bit more sane. But with this video, I really don't have a reason, besides that you all kind of bullied me into making it. And you know, if you've also got an idea that will hurt me, join my Discord or Twitter and let me know. Like Barack Obama, who wants me to go skydiving after pepper spraying the instructor. Alright, flamethrower. And I think I've got the perfect thing. This broken outdoor heating lamp we've never used, which should have all the necessary components I need to make a good flamethrower. Like this switch, this grill thing here, this igniter, a gas hose, and this American soldier who loves burning Vietnamese children.
Hello!
I'm gonna move this lamp so it might get cold, but you can come with me if you want. Yeah, I'll just grab the chair. So today, I'm gonna bung together a flamethrower that will hopefully warm the hearts of even my most American viewers. And the first thing I should do is probably take it apart to see what things I have to work with. And then I should be able to roughly place the parts together in a way that looks like a flamethrower. and I'm really hoping I won't have to buy anything and can use things already available in my garage, as I went a little over my prawn budget in the last video. So I'm liking what I've got so far. We've got screws that go both in and out, some useful spider webs, a nozzle, and this thing, which I don't really know what it is, but it makes a rather nice noise. Ah, it says dump switch, so that explains what I've been doing wrong all these years. And I don't know why, but sometimes I get really impatient while taking things apart. Like, instead of just undoing this screw, I decided to ignore it and just bend the metal to get the temperature probe out. And I kind of open my mail in a similar way. I think I might actually just be part rat. And speaking of animals, while taking the main body apart to get to these poles, something softly touched my hand. So I tried to find it in order to reciprocate the touching, and did not expect to find this big boy. And usually I attempt to catch them and release them outside, but this guy was probably the biggest huntsman I've ever seen, and instead decided to let him permanently live in my garage. So this is it, all taken apart, and I think I've got a rough idea of what I want to do. So I'll have the gas bottle mounted on the top with the hose running inside the metal frame of the lamp. Then I'll add this accumulation tank, which will also double as a handle. Then I've got the valvey switch thing at the front, which will let the gas out through the nozzle. Now the smart ones amongst you will have noticed that I'm planning to use this little propane bottle instead of the big fella that came with the heat lamp. And that's because firstly, it's big, so I'll need a strap to my back, and then if anything goes wrong and it blows up, I would probably be more dead than if I was using the little one. And also, if I use this little gas canister, it kind of looks like Elon Musk's flamethrower, but hopefully not quite as boring. So in order to use a small canister, I need to modify this hose to accept it. And luckily, I have this yogurt container filled with old gas fittings that I've collected over the years.
What?
Well, we want to be
What?
free.
No.
We want to be
No.
free.
No.
Do what we want to do.
Wait, that's not. Oh, come on, please. Just look at what it is before you eat it.
Okay, so I think I can just cut off this old nozzle and tap a thread in and then put this hose on, which fits into the new gas nozzle. And just ignore the fact that this hose is now brand new looking and slightly longer. That happens sometimes when machining parts together. And this is basically the flamethrower done, except it doesn't look like one. But I still can't resist giving it an early test to see if I'm on the right track.
Should not be on.
And leaks everywhere. Absolutely everywhere. I don't think there was a single connection point that didn't catch on fire, which is pretty bad, but also kind of impressive. Also, the flame was pathetically small, and that might be the fault of the nozzle here, but I'm hoping that because a team of scientists designed this heat lamp, that hopefully they created a nozzle that works, and it's just the lack of gas flow that's creating a small flame. And using this pile of gas detecting powder I've collected over the years, we can see that there is heaps of gas escaping out of other places where it's not meant to be coming from. So I think I've got no choice but to use some Teflon tape. And my whole life I thought Teflon tape was kind of a scam. Just one of those add-on products that you don't really need. You know, similar to those shoe sticks, which you have in your cupboard because the shoe salesman somehow convinced you that in order to get the full shoe experience, you need to put them on using a slippery stick. And the guy is wearing a suit and has nice hair, so you trust him and you buy one. But then you realize it's a big lie. The shoes feel exactly the same, and now whenever you put them on, you look like a wanker while doing it. So please, no matter how lost you're feeling in life, do not buy a shoehorn. But with Teflon tape, that's not true at all. I'm a convert. Look, this is the brass fitting in the bath without the tape. And now with the tape.
Can you see any bubbles?
Not besides the bubble bath.
It is pretty good bubble bath, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is.
And this video isn't sponsored, but Mr. Teflon, the offer is there if you want it. I now literally use your tape on everything. Alright, let's move on to building the body. So I have these two poles, and I'm imagining that I can join them together and then also get this plate thing on the end, which kind of looks like the butt of a gun to rest against my shoulder. And I don't know how long I want it exactly, so I just closed my eyes and picked a random spot. Then used a grinder to cut it down. And would you look at this? I think I found a use for this metal hat thing on top of the lamp. it fits perfectly on top of my bin and stops it from catching on fire. And it can also be used to protect my head as well.
Are you alright? No. Are you alright? No. What is it now? What is it now? Please. Wait, what is it now? Please. What is it now? Please. What is it now? What is it now?
Now that it's cut, I'm going to attempt welding it together. And I don't have magnetic strips, so I'm just going to use some duct tape to hold it in place until I get some tack welds down. And I don't know how I do it, but every time I weld, I somehow get worse. It's a constant battle of getting the stick stuck, dropping it on the ground and being unable to pick it up, and then melting through my workpiece. And this doesn't look like it's going to hold at all. So I just welded over the seam 3 or 4 times, and hopefully that should hold up. Okay, now that I have my slightly longer pole, I'm going to cut a hole in it here, so the handle and accumulation tank pokes out. So I just drilled a little hole to check it was in the right place before attempting to use this cheap coring bit to make the right shape. And I'm willing to bet all of you a $5 that this drill bit doesn't work. See, I told you. Now, each of you owe me $5 plus the $1 I gave you for the bus. So I expect $6.96 million in my bank account by next Thursday. And speaking of money, I've decided I'm going to try using Patreon more instead of doing crappy sponsorships. So if you sign up now, you'll get early access to my videos, behind the scenes footage, and maybe, if I can convince them, even a little sneaky foot photo. You see, one of them is a little shy, but the other one is super keen. Okay, back to drilling. So then I used the correct drill bit and made the hole, and then screwed it together. And this thing is starting to look pretty good, kind of like the flamethrowers you see in video games. Except my cord is too long and I can't cut it, so I'm just going to have to try and fold it inside the tube and then have it come out of this grill section. So I just used my same trusty drill bit to make another hole. And now I might just be able to stuff all of it into the casing. And while I'm doing that, I wanted to quickly explain why I bothered putting in this accumulation tank. So if I didn't have this little tank right here and just connected the bottle straight to the nozzle, the gas that is able to come out of the nozzle would be very limited, as there isn't much space for the gas to build up before.
These guys make me feel bad about like my intelligence, bro. Like they're putting shit together, they're doing like journalism stuff. These guys are fucking wild, bro. These guys are fucking wild.
Inside the hose. But if I put a tank here, it fills up with gas. So then when the valve opens, there is a large amount of gas eager to get out.
Like
and I think a good way to understand it is to think of the hose without the accumulation tank as a single file line at the shops where everyone comes in slowly one by one, compared to a Black Friday stampede where everyone runs in at once, falling over and crushing each other. The second one is a lot more fun with a lot more energy and exactly what I want coming out of the end of my nozzle. Okay, so I've got it all together except this nozzle, and I don't really like this doily looking thing on the front, so I'm going to cut it off. And that looks much more like a familiar flamethrower nozzle. And I've just realized that I can also utilize this metal rod underneath to hold the igniter flame. And some of you may be disappointed that I'm not using the original spark igniter, but firstly, it would be very hard to time the spark with the burst of propane. And secondly, I kind of broke it. So instead, I'm just going to bend the metal rod to shape and then have John Wick in front of the nozzle for a constant flame. Okay, just a couple of things left to do before I can burn myself. I'm going to cut off the rest of this metal thing so I can securely attach the metal nozzle, and then I need some way to secure the gas canister up here, and I think I know the perfect free thing I can use. The water holder from my bike, which I never really use, as I'm always embarrassed to put my supermarket brand bottle in, as all the other bikers have their designer bottles and Camelbacks, and they'll make fun of me. So instead, I just usually drink all the water I'm going to need for my ride in advance. In that way, I don't have to carry it. And this bottle holder does also have this toolkit, which is kind of useful, but I found you can just consume those beforehand as well. Okay, so I attached that and it's looking pretty good. Does my profile picture also agree?
Do you think so?
And I think we are ready for a proper test. And besides what all of you usually say on my videos, this time I'm remembering to follow safety procedures, like keeping a fire extinguisher on hand and removing any flammable objects from the area, like my clothes. And test time. And that is not where fire is meant to be coming from. So I think I've got a couple of leaks, or it could be an inbuilt safety restrictor in the valve. So I'm gonna try open it up and take it out. And I hate safety features, like in Nerf guns, where they put a single piece of plastic in to stop you shooting at a fun speed, or seat belts that stop you rolling
What
around
is
in
up,
your
bro?
car.
How
And I
goes
find
it?
I'm happier when I remove
You're
as many
speaking
things
Russian,
as I can
man.
from my life.
Do you speak English, brother?
So I opened up the valve and I think I found the culprit, which is this little O-ring that is meant to sit on the end of this spring. And stop the
I can
gas
try to
coming through,
translate,
but
man.
it keeps
Give me a
popping
second.
off.
Let
So
me.
I
I'll
just super
translate
glued
what
it
you're
back on
saying.
and then put a big bolt in the end to plug the hole. And now, hopefully, I should not hear the noise of any gas escaping. Like and subscribe.
Works.
And
Okay.
I was thinking of
Got
doing
works.
a flamethrower a paint job, but after trying out what the colors look like on my computer,
Sorry, I'm a little tired.
I
Serbian.
don't
You're
think I
speaking
like the
Serbian.
painted look very much. Okay, flame test round 2. Now that is what I want. And I am still getting pretty big gas leaks. but they
Brother.
add a little bit of
Okay, brother
excitement to
works.
using it. And I'm quite happy with it. This probably beats the knife-throwing book trap as the most irresponsible thing I've ever made. So let's go test it outside.
Hello, brother. Hello, man. Hello.
We are in the midst of a bushfire crisis tonight, the likes of which this state has never seen.
Police say they're searching for a suspected arsonist after they were alerted to some abnormal fire activity. Fire crews saw
Nice
a
to
new
meet you,
outbreak of flames
Weck.
and a person nearby.
If people are going to do this sort of stupid...
I'm very tired, so I might not be like as energetic as I should be, bro.
These residents here are absolutely furious that this could possibly be the work of an arsonist, and this very much remains a crime scene here tonight as police investigate exactly how this bushfire was started.
Okay, maybe it's best if I test it indoors. So I've got
Wild,
various items
wild.
to test the flamethrower on to see if it can do everything a good flame is meant to do. So let's start with some sparklers. Okay, now let's test something a little more Australian. And you know, some people try to blame the current government for the impending extinction of Australia's koalas, but no, I think it's actually because they are so flammable. And let's do the last test, a steel beam. And I don't think the flame is hot enough. And after all these tests, I realized I've made this thing horribly. I kind of wanted to make it easy for myself by not having to change the actual lamp much, so I left the trigger on the side here, but it's really uncomfortable to hold, and also I get burnt when the gas escapes. Also, the handle accumulation tank plan is horrible as it fills up with liquid propane and freezes, making it impossible to hold. The whole thing is also way too long, and I don't know how I thought I was actually going to use it in this position. And just to be safe, I think I need to make this clear. Even though I've called this a flamethrower in the title, it's not actually. The definition of a flamethrower is a device that shoots a stream of flammable liquid. Mine does not do this at all. Think of mine as just kind of a slightly larger cigarette lighter. And even though it looks cool and is hundreds of times bigger than the flame that originally came out of this canister, and better than Elon Musk's, if you compare it to any other flamethrower on YouTube, it's pretty pathetic. And it would actually be more effective to just get a water pistol, put petrol in it, and then put a candle on the front. But I'm not allowed to do that, as it's illegal. And actually, I'm not sure if what I'm doing right now is illegal either. So if I don't upload for a long time, it's not because my upload schedule is crap and I'm procrastinating, it's because I've been tagged by the police. Or, you know what? If there are some cops watching right now, could you at least like this video and subscribe before coming to arrest me? Thank you so.
Wild, bro. Wild. I don't know if Joe's still here. Is Joe even still here? Again, Wubbs is getting a little senile.
The Minneapolis ice flood is over. It is ending. I think it's ending in large part because DHS funding is about to stall, because funding for the DHS was separated from the rest of the Senate bill, and the Dems are refusing to vote for the ICE funding specifically without concessions. So that's all fun. That's all good. Trying to get that funding. But yeah, no, Tom Homan announced an end to the siege.
With that, in success that has been made arresting public safety threats and other priorities since this search operation began, as well as the unprecedented levels of coordination we have obtained from state officials and local law enforcement, I have proposed, and President Trump has concurred, that this surge operation conclude. A significant drawdown has already been underway this week, and will
Please tell us what he's saying. I was hoping you guys would tell me.
Continue.
He does like talk like he has a bunch of shit in his mouth, bro.
Risk who shouldn't even be in this country, and to deliver on President Trump's promise for strong border security and mass deportation. Law enforcement officers drawn down from this surge operation will either return to the duty station or be signed elsewhere to achieve just that.
I'm a bitch. That's what he said? Gotcha. Okay, gotcha. No, it's actually like
zero tolerance.
Sorry, a very weak drawout from the Department of Homeland Security. I figured this would happen eventually. I gotta give credit, man, not just to Chancellor Stansel, but also Minnesotans are the only ones who made this happen, okay? I acknowledge a bit of upward pressure from the Democrats cutting funding, or like pressuring a halt to funding through a shutdown, but overwhelmingly, the Democrats did nothing but fail the people of Minnesota over and over and over and over again. Tim Walz didn't do shit. Jacob Frey didn't do shit, okay? Their AGs, you know, their prosecutors, their local police, they didn't do shit, okay? It was the people of Minnesota who resisted the occupation and were there day in and day out, showing up dozens, hundreds of people to every call that ICE was here or there. Those rapid response teams, they 100% did this, okay? It's the same story that we've seen over and over in the second Trump administration, which is they're probing for a weak spot, right? And this was after, I mean, they gunned up a lot of people, right? They massively increased ISIS numbers. They recruited people from all over. They pumped them up with money, with guns, with bravado, and they sent them in, and they broke here. It did not work. And if they can't do it here, they definitely can't do it in New York. They definitely can't do it in Chicago or LA. Proof that nonviolent resistance works, IMO? No, I 100% agree. Listen, okay? I'm no liberal. However, nonviolent resistance does have a legitimate place in the toolbook, right? Toolbox, rule book, whatever you prefer, in both, in either. Generally, it works by manipulating public opinion, you know? And it works best when you massively outnumber them. And in this case, both work, right? ICE was very unpopular. They have only been made more unpopular. ICE is very openly hateable, so getting some eyes on them helps a lot. And also, you outnumber them because there's only a couple thousand of them in Minnesota. It's like 1 million, 2 million people in the greater metropolitan area. So it's a perfect microcosm. Don't mistake nonviolent with peaceful. Okay, all right, okay, point taken. I acknowledge it. Yes, you know, we don't need to be pedants, right? I'm not out here accosting brave Minnesotans for tossing a soda can or whatever the fuck, okay? Look, I'm not talking. What I'm saying is the drive of this effort from Minnesotans has been largely a show of solidarity, public support, community mindedness, and getting the eyes on them. You know, that's what they've been up to. And it has worked massively. It has been overwhelmingly successful. And you know what? I'm going to say it. I'm going to point you to this, okay? For all the bullshit liberals like to spew about how they prefer protest tactics, you know, be enacted, who was most on the side of the people in Minnesota? The lefties or the liberals? Don't get me wrong. Of the people doing these community response groups, okay, it was the people there, the residents of Minnesota, liberal or lefty. But in terms of the broader sentiment, liberal politicians failed them, dude. Locally and nationally. The Democrats have not done much here, okay? Like, seriously, Democrat congressmen, senators, everyone should have been going down there to protest, to community responses in Minnesota, showing up and videotaping. Again, this is just, it's just very, very basic. Like, you know, you have time, you can do it. You can just show up there, show solidarity and support. You know, Democrats in or out of Minnesota. Hey, here I am from out of state. Look at how bad these ICE guys are. Look at these pieces of shit. We don't want them in our state, you know? Then you take a look at the messaging from Tim Walz. It's like watching air get let out of a balloon. No, no, no. Liberals, the Democrats, this was not them, okay? This was not them. They were the ones, you know, pissing about saying, well, just make sure to be peaceful, you know, blah, blah. Which, by the way, even if it's true, because it's good. It's good, like, safety tactics for a protest to stay peaceful. You don't want to invite violence upon other people. You know, the way they delivered these messages was, well, weak and depressing, you know? It's like Jacob Frey got all of the initiative driven out of him when he said, you know, ICE, get the fuck out of here, back when it started. And then after that, everything was bullshit, you know, concession. It was like, that was it. That was the one little bit of oomph, you know? The point that I'm trying to get at here is God bless the divine heavenly armies of Minnesota and Chancellor Stansel, and remember this in the future, okay? Liberals love to talk positively about peaceful, civilly minded protests after the fact, but when they're actually happening, where the fuck are they? Real liberals, you know, John Locke would be out there in Minnesota going crazy. They'd be going like balls to the wall, all right? Current liberals, modern day Democrats, weak, feckless, inept, can't even aura farm off of the easiest thing, man. The easiest thing in the world. Why wasn't Tim Walz out there at those community responses? Do you know how much attention he could have driven to this? Will Stansel out there being the realist liberal? No, for sure, yeah. When he passes, he'll be accepted. You know, the pearly gates will open and he'll see the founding fathers there, congratulating him for being the only one of their true ideological progeny. And for all we know, real progeny. Maybe he's like the great, you know, maybe it's like the heavenly bloodline technique of John Locke or Hobbes or someone, you know, channeling through him.
Okay, guys, I think the stream's pretty much dead. I'm gonna go to bed and I'm gonna take a nap. So I'll see you guys in the next one. So see you guys. Oh, I'm dying. See ya, yeah. See ya, bros. I'll be uploading Luwub's Loads. I'll be uploading some old streams, so I'm gonna set that up before I go to bed. But yeah, so yeah, if you want to go down memory lane. All right, see ya, guys. See ya, Peabody.